On Automate Your Life, you have seen a ton of products and features that can change your lifestyle and can look amazing in your home. As a YouTuber who gets to show you these things, I have a lot to be proud about, and there's a lot I enjoy about what I do and how it's allowed me to change my home. However, today I'm here to tell you about a few things that embarrass me about this. Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again, and you know me as Brian from Automate Your Life, and usually I'm showcasing things as professionally as I can here on the channel, but today it's time to kind of lift the curtain and show you a few things. Probably the most embarrassing thing about all of this is that because I'm a YouTuber, I am constantly moving equipment around my home. I'm constantly getting new devices in, and then I have to try the latest features. And so nothing is constant in my life or in my home. And this is really causing me to lose track of things. Everything in my home is so transitory. And what this does is if I'm hosting someone at my place, well, I can lose track of how something was triggered using my voice, or what routine or what automation or even what platform I had last connected something to. Do you know how embarrassing it is to be someone who does this for a living and then to lose track of the automation in your own home in front of people? And the biggest problem of it all is that I want to be able to answer all of your questions on the channel or just through email or whatever source it's coming from, and the fact is I haven't necessarily gotten in deep enough with every platform in the last couple of months, and so I probably forgot a few things. And I remember there was a couple of questions just a few weeks ago about Habitat, and I went, oh man, I am a few months out from that. I don't really remember how that feature works, and then I've got to go research for hours to make sure I'm answering the question as best I can, and then it's embarrassing again if I get it wrong. So in the end, I don't know what to do about this component, but you know what? It impacts the people in my life and it impacts our home quite considerably. So it's a bit of an embarrassment and a bit of a frustration. I moved into a rental place in late 2019, and that has meant that there's some restrictions on me as a renter. And the fact is, I haven't installed a smart switch since that time, and I'm starting to feel a little out of sorts and a little like I can't remember how to do that. So it's just an embarrassing thing about living in an apartment rental and trying to do this. I have to find other people to install smart switches if I get them in. And speaking of lighting, I've never actually sat down and worked with fully addressable LED strips, and I've seen a lot of people do that, and I've seen the outcome of their projects, and I get what it's about, but I think you all assume that I'm a complete hacker or a complete in-depth kind of guy, and I am, and I can do that, but the fact of the matter is I'm not playing with that because I'm editing YouTube videos for you. I'm not writing scripts every week in WebCore because I'm writing scripts for the channel. And I'm not truly customizing every component of my home and my home automation because I'm answering comments on YouTube. And the one that gets me the most is related to that customization. It's action tiles. And when I used to work in industrial automation, one of my favorite things to do was to create the HMIs, or human machine interfaces. And I really loved creating those because then you could see people really get joy out of being able to control the facility and being able to see what they needed to see when they needed to see it, and it was a lot of fun. So when I saw things like action tiles and other HMI interfaces like that, I was really excited to do this in my home. But the fact is, I'm not putting that in-depth time that I would really love in order to create a great interface. And I've seen many of the ones that you guys have created, and I've just been blown away and further embarrassed by it. Some other little things that I'm kind of embarrassed by, you know, the blooms sitting behind me, they're not the best lights, and I have never really thought that they're amazing, but I'm using them on an almost daily basis. My garage door openers, I mean, in all the time that I have been automating, my favorite is SwitchBot, and like the MyQ, and I have an iSmart gate here, and I've had a couple other Z-Wave modules that open up the garage doors, but the fact is my favorite is the one that just pushes the button with a little finger. Every room in my home kind of ends up being like its own smaller version of a smart home, and the reason I say that is I kind of have to pile together systems. So, I go and I get a bunch of Smart Life stuff. Well, I can't necessarily stick that with a bunch of HomeKit stuff. And I have Habitat gear in one area and then Smart Things in another area. And it just gets to be a really complicated smart home in the end when you try and explain it to people. Something else related to being in a rental place, I can't really change the smart locks, at least not without it being something like Wise, so I've had to pass on devices like that as well. And while I can say that I have learned a ton in the last 4 or 5 years within the smart home industry, the technologies behind it, and even some of the companies and making good contacts within companies, and all of this growth that has happened within my smart home and YouTube here with what I've been able to share with you, the most embarrassing thing about all of this is I still feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm not providing enough. And I think that this is something every small business owner goes through, and I think this is something you go through just owning a smart home. There's so many options out there, and how do you cover it all? How do you understand it all? I think unfortunately this is just something we can't cover 100% anywhere. So what is it about your smart home that you're a little embarrassed about? Like, let's talk about this. Leave this down below. I'll talk about what I know, and I think other automators here have great knowledge, and so let's just build this little bit of community here, help each other with our little embarrassing issues, and please help me with my embarrassing issues down below in the comments too. Thanks for watching, everyone, and of course, don't hate, automate.